this in check.
Nice.
Which is actually kind of scary. If you
knew one.
Someone saying...
Like, you see that's his cell phone right there? There's a 60% chance he does not make it home with that phone today.
Live on Facebook.
That's very true. It's no lie. Oh, yeah, we are live. Look at that. Boom.
We're on the Lord's team, the winning side, so raise your glass.
Welcome to the Catholic Man Show. We're on the Lord's team, the winning side, so raise your glass. Adam Minahan here, sitting in studio with David Niles. We got Juan on the buttons this evening. Thank you, Juan, for being here, keeping us in check, which is sometimes a little scary, but here we are.
Memento Moris.
What'd you say?
He said memento moris.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure there's supposed to be an S at the end, but that is what he said.
We pluralized it. Okay, that's fine.
For all of them.
Remember all your deaths. Yeah.
We just continue dying.
All y'all remember your
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, y'all. We are in Oklahoma. Yeah. We got Jim at the door. Thank you, Jim, for being here. Jim helps us ship all of our swag and all of our Patreon thank you gifts. He keeps us in check that way. And we have a very special guest this evening. We're really excited to have you on. I got a chance to meet you just a few weeks, or a month and a half ago or so. Father Patrick Briscoe from Dominican House of Studies, also famous for being on God's Planning podcast, something that we've promoted several times on the show. But great to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to be here. So real quick, before we get into our topic, before we even get into our drink, there's a couple questions that I asked our patrons to ask you.
Oh,
and so
solid. Let's
Gage
go.
Gage asked me, or he posted, he said, what is your advice for a guy who's trying to read the Summa, but doesn't have any like theological or philosophical background? It's getting a little heavy. Like, what's an entry level? Meaning, would you start with book one? Would you go to the second part of the second part? Is there some other text that would be good entry point?
Masters in theology.
Well, I know this school in Washington, D.C. called the Dominican House of Studies, where there are a lot of guys who teach this. But short of that, no, the place that I often encourage people to start with, if you want to read St. Thomas and you say, like, well, I'm not really sure what this guy is about, the best thing to read is his commentary on the three greatest prayers. And this is published by Sophia Press. It's available online in a couple different places for free. And that's Aquinas' commentary on the Our Father, the Hail Mary, and the Creed. And in that, you're going to get a sense for who Aquinas is, and you're going to find out a lot of his doctrinal meat, where he stands on a lot of things. And that's really accessible because most adult Catholics have heard of those things, the Our Father, the Hail Mary, and
I
the
hope.
Creed.
Right.
Well, but it's 2022.
Sure.
You know, so,
Right.
so you never know what's out there. So that's actually a really great place to start, and that little work is often overlooked. So I think that's a really good entree for Aquinas. Now, but if you do say, okay, well, I want to take a stab at the Summa, the thing to do, I believe, is to start with the virtues. So you can look at faith, hope, and charity, or to go with the other cardinal moral virtues. Fortitude's a good one for a lot of guys. Temperance, right? Pretty straightforward. It's going to map onto a lot of things discussed here on this show, a lot of things experienced in life. So that's really a great place to start, the treatise on the virtues. Now, when you read St. Thomas, I'll say this too, just real quick. The best thing to do when you're reading the Summa is to open up to a particular question, right? Pick one of the articles, and then go halfway down the article.
Yeah,
and
skip to
start,
the...
start where he says, I answer that.
Yeah.
Right.
Because what he's doing, right, as you guys know, in the Summa, he's a master of debate, So he's looking at opposing positions first. He's putting the strongest arguments against whatever he can say first. And that can be really confusing if
He
you're
steel
just
mans
looking at
everything
this.
before he breaks it down.
That's right. That's a great way to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not straw man.
Right. No.
It's like an actual tough guy argument. Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Why didn't I think of that? Steel man.
He didn't make it
So
up.
I
either.
definitely did not make that up. I'm
Well, I
sure-
was ready to give Adam a lot of credit for that.
No, don't do that.
I made it up.
Nice. Yeah, David. Yeah, trademark. TM.
You can give it to me.
Good footnote.
I'll take it.
So I would encourage you to do that. Go into the questions on the virtues. The other great place. Now, the Summa is structured in 3 books. However, book 2 has a part 1 and a part 2. So you have the first part of the second part and the second part of the second part, which seems a little insane. Why aren't there 4 parts? I don't know. I didn't do it. But when you go to the third part, which is technically the 4th part, when you go to the third part, you can get to a little section about Jesus. That's really beautiful.
Who?
Exactly. So a big amen to the Lord and Savior. And those questions about the mysteries of the Lord's life are really phenomenal. And that's where Aquinas asks stuff like, what's the purpose of the mystery? What's the purpose of the miracles that Jesus is working? What was the nature of the Lord's teaching? Which you can just feel how poignant that is to Thomas Aquinas, a man who gave himself to teaching, right? Mm-hmm. So he's asking like the nature of the Lord's teaching, what it meant to be a teacher. Was Jesus the best teacher? How did he teach? So those are really important questions for Aquinas. Why didn't Jesus write a book? That's in that section. You get in that section about Christ, the mysteries of Christ's life, again, kind of the middle of the third part, you get the explanation of the passion, which is really beautiful. Why was it necessary for Christ to die on the cross? Was it necessary for Christ to die on the cross? Aquinas has some nuanced things to say about that. And then he treats the passion in a way that's just very, very overpowering, very moving, very beautiful. So that would be another great place to start. So either the virtues in the second part of the second part, or those questions on the mysteries of the life of Christ in the third part, which is really the 4th part.
What about reading people who are sort of like very Aquinas-esque? Thomists. Thank you. I knew.
Yeah, there's a word for that.
I know. As I was saying,
good.
it's like
Excellent.
I was like trying to
right.
say that. It's like I'll just say it this way.
Yeah.
But like we're a big fan of the Peepster on this
Nice,
show.
sure.
People
Yeah.
like him who are very Thomistic.
Yep.
What are some other good people like that? To me, they're just a little easier to approach. The Peepster is still kind of heavy, but what about other people like
There's
that?
another little book. It's very small. You may have seen the red cover one, the Confraternity, published by the Confraternity of the Precious Blood, that has daily prayers. But there's a little green volume. It's pocket size, and it's called My Way of Life. Mm-hmm. And that is a kind of more poetic summary of the Summa. That's an excellent little book for someone that's interested in St. Thomas, that wants the Summa but needs something that's just a little bit more accessible. My Way of Life. Mm-hmm. So that's very affordable. That's kind of like a Catholic classic. That's excellent. If you want some big boy medicine that's going to lay you out, Father Thomas Joseph White, who's a priest of my province, he's the president of the Angelicum. It's actually a much better title than that. He is technically the Rector Magnificus of the University of St. Thomas Aquinas in Urbe.
With that, and just
Isn't that
start handing them out
amazing?
like candy. Like,
Yeah, the
look at
best part of that is that he's a little guy, and that's a big title. So
Yeah.
the Rector Magnificus is about 5 feet tall. So.
His 8-part series on the Eucharist is phenomenal. It was awesome.
Absolutely amazing. So he's got a book out called The Light of Christ, published by Catholic University Press, which is about all the central mysteries of the faith, but from a very Thomistic perspective. That's an excellent
Beautiful.
Also, I got to throw out Father Gary Goulagrange. I got to throw him out.
The caribou?
Yeah, the caribou. Yeah, I got to throw him out. Yeah.
The Caribou Lagrange, is that what he's called out here?
That's what I call him.
Oh, I didn't know that. You could buy that at Caribou Coffee out here?
Yeah.
Caribou there, wow.
We actually went through Thomistic Common. Some of our patrons, we did a book study on Thomistic Common Sense, which was
excellent.
some of his
Yeah,
writing,
very
which
good.
was really, really good. So I got to throw him out there as well. Jacques Maritain is another good one.
Yeah, Garrigou's last writings is excellent too for someone that wants kind of a survey that's just a little bit of a heavy taste into the mysteries of the faith. That's a very excellent book.
His stuff on grace is awesome, I think.
We have a friend here in town who recently had a son, wanted to name the middle name Garrigou.
Fantastic.
Didn't have enough chips.
Fantastic. Nope. Well,
Didn't have enough chips.
There's always Reginald.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Just go with Reggie.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, those are some good answers. Okay, so
Were there any other questions that you needed to get to?
No, well, there are, but I wanted to
Maybe
just, like,
later.
I thought that was a good
starting
good
point.
start.
Sure.
Good
Okay, let's talk
launching
about the
point.
whiskey then briefly.
Yeah.
Tell us what it is, because it's super good.
Yeah, so it's Kings County Distillery straight bourbon whiskey, 45% ABV. It is New York City's oldest whiskey distillery. About 80% corn, 20% malt, 3 years aged or more. It was delicious.
It was so nice for you to offer to send me home with that, Adam. I was over when you said that. I was overwhelmed.
I'm gonna have to send it to you as a thank you, or as a thank you, and then also like as a gift of hoping that Father Vince will be kind enough to let us send you back and
actually be able to get into the rectory.
Open the door
Open
so you
the
can
door
have
for the rectory
a place
tonight.
to sleep
I
tonight.
do have a guest
Please.
bedroom here, so
as if I haven't slept on a city street by myself before. Oh, God.
So okay, one of the things, Father, that
You know, if you're going to do that, you're definitely going to need the whiskey.
We only have about 2 minutes left, but some people kind of get taken back whenever we are drinking on air. Maybe we could. This is kind of a good broach into the topic actually as well. Like, why is it? What are your thoughts on alcohol and being able to drink, and kind of give it to you there?
Well, it's said that Aquinas suggests that there are simple cures for sorrow. He suggests taking a hot bath. He suggests studying sacred truth, because sacred truth is consoling in that way. He suggests a glass of red wine. That's pretty good. So we shouldn't be afraid of enjoying things in life as a kind of consolation on this side of eternity. Being a pilgrim, being a person on the way, doesn't mean that the whole trip has to be a vale of tears. There can be things that we can do along the way that are enjoyable. So insofar as alcohol is ordered towards fraternity, towards good conversation, used in moderation, all those things are very edifying and entirely consonant with our journey on the way to heaven.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to talk about leisure this evening. Pumped about
go.
that. So we're here with Father Patrick Briscoe from the Dominican House of Studies, also host of God's Plan and Go. Subscribe to that podcast right now. We'll be right back. That is a delicious whiskey.
It's excellent.
It is really, really good.
I'm glad you bought
Very
it and I
sweet.
picked it.
Jim,
Today he's like, which one of these should we drink? And I said, that one.
It's yummy.
Oh yeah, it's yummy. It's so yummy.
Jim has a yummy and non-yummy scale for whiskey. So
That's very precise.
Yes.
I like that. That's very Kierkegaardian, either or.
yeah.
Like it's this or that.
Yeah.
So, okay, you ready, Juan? Let's roll. I'm excited about this topic. I love leisure and talking about leisure.
Very good at it.
We people just don't understand the concept of leisure anymore.
Well, exactly. I think that's quite right.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles here with Adam Minahan. Our special guest, Father Patrick Briscoe, Dominican.
OP.
OP.
What are preachers? Priest of God.
Thank you for being here, Father.
My pleasure.
So we're going to be talking about leisure today, something that our culture totally doesn't understand. It just misses it completely.
Well, it's all about Netflix. That's
right.
what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what leisure
like
is.
the
It's
leisure
Netflix
that the culture does
and
try to
YouTube.
have is totally disordered, and then it's like attitude towards resting is also just completely backwards. You know, we rest so we can go back to work, instead of working so that we can rest. What is like the essence of leisure? Well, like, where do you like just at its most basic? What is it? Let's start there.
So what I would give you, based on the fact that we talk about this kind of stuff over at God's Planning all the time, leisure is the kind of thing that orders life towards contemplation.
Okay.
Leisure is the sort of thing that makes it possible to bear that further consideration of the truth. So leisure is a kind of unwinding and opening up of the heart, creating a space in life such that there can be that time for deeper reflection, that time for real prayer, that time for union with God that we call contemplation. That's where I would start. And at first, that's a big claim because it might not seem related, but...
Right, and for those who may not understand what contemplation is, let's define that word.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's a tough word. By contemplation, I just mean what most people mean by prayer. I mean lifting up the mind and heart to God.
Okay.
Now, for a Dominican, this is intimately related to our study of sacred truth. So contemplation is fed by reading. It's fed by study. Those things, study, is really more of an active, aggressive act, whereas leisure, reading for leisure, might be more relaxing, right? But both reading and study are ordered towards thinking about truths, thinking about sacred truth in a way that's different from how we live the rest of our lives, and leading us up to again that union with God, that thinking about God, that raising up of the heart and mind to God.
I think that all of the arts are really kind of ordered towards contemplation, right? The things we read, they make us think. One of the things I really bums me out is that plays, what you might call now movies, people used to go to plays, now people go to movies, have just totally lost that focus and that realization of what they could be. Because some of the things that have really made me think the most have been in a movie. It's there's like a good scene in a movie. Okay, for instance, I saw Maverick this last weekend. I'm late to the game, and I just
Where
saw
have
it.
you
I
been?
just saw it. Adam still won't see it. I tried to get him to see it.
What? It's not that I won't see it. It's just I just have not.
And
had
there's a
chance.
scene in there where
I want to see
Tom Cruise is talking about he tried to be like a father to Goose's son. There's not a spoiler alert, and he says like I tried to be a father to him. I just wish I could have done it better. Mm-hmm. And as a father, like that hit me really hard because I have days where I feel like that. Like man, I am such a boring dad. I'm a no dad a lot of times. Like, can we do this? No, we can't do that. We're not doing that. No, we're going to bed.
Put that down.
Right,
Don't do
exactly.
that.
Stop that.
Yeah. Get that out of your mouth.
So, like, there's just things about movies, really all the arts, I think, have this ability to lend itself towards, that leisurely contemplation. It's something that hopefully all of the arts will get back to, because obviously, like, painting, there's something, very contemplative about a good artwork. Obviously, books. But
right. And when we're talking about leisure, I mean, we're talking about something that's very directly countercultural. For us as men today, in America in 2022, right? What's the line that we're being fed all the time? You've got to be working, and if you're not working, you have to be having the most hardcore experience possible. Mm-hmm. Something that will either make your wife happy and is content for her Instagram so she can sell beauty products or whatever women do on those things.
Wear yoga pants all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So it's either something that fuels that, or it's something that is further productive. You're like learning a skill or something. You're learning how to do something. So that's kind of like the back to roots manliness movement too, which is fine. But learning a skill is not leisure either. That's just more busyness that clouds or adds to all of the stresses and pressures of life. So what I want to go in hard on is that all of us need more leisure. Now, you guys have probably heard about the example from the marriage and family therapist that the man's brain is like a waffle. You've heard this?
Yes,
nice boxes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's like the classic box.
Right.
And what's the box in the middle? You remember?
I don't know. Is it nothing?
Remember.
It's nothing. There's a box in the man waffle brain, right, that is just for nothing.
Nothing.
And it's amazing.
It's the best box.
It's the best box, and it really exists, right? And and this comes out, right? This experience a lot of men have, where their wife or girlfriend asks them, "What are you thinking about?" And you say, "Nothing."
Nothing.
And they don't believe you,
Right? No.
Because there's not a nothing box.
Fine. Don't tell me.
Yeah,
Fine. Whatever.
Exactly. They resent you.
Well, would you at least do the
like
dishes?
you've deceived them. No, but there's a nothing box. And for men, the nothing box is very important. The nothing box has to be fed, and it's fed by the acts that we call leisure, that are those acts of relaxation that are not some kind of like narrow or sort of limp-wristed self-pampering or self-care. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the kind of truly restorative acts that help you to come to know yourself better. Okay, so what are things that I propose for leisure? Well, one, I propose men smoking cigars together.
Yeah.
I think this is very important.
I have done with Father Briscoe.
Nice.
Excellent. It was one of the more edifying moments of
That
Catholic Media
conference.
conference, or a conference that wasn't named. So the
In a place which shall not be mentioned.
that's right. It definitely wasn't in Portland. But the thing that's very important is that because that provides an opportunity when you're doing an activity that's relaxing for just conversation, to just chat, to unburden yourself, to think a little critically, to have a buddy push back on this, that, or idea, to just float something that you've been kind of thinking about, to try it, to test it. One of the great losses I think that we've seen is the death of men's social clubs, or even like the regular trip to the bar. As the suburbs have expanded, neighborhood bars have died. This is a phenomenon that still exists in New England a little bit, which is great. I enjoyed that when I was assigned in Providence. I enjoyed our neighborhood bar very much. I joked with my parishioners that my spiritual director was Sister Mary Regina. The bartender's name was Gina. She was not. I had a real confessor. Okay, don't be too scandalized. But there was a kind of remnant of that kind of culture. And what was important about the bar, not the drinking, but the kind of conversation, the kind of leisurely enjoyment, the kind of unwinding, the kind of unpacking that allowed the mind to be freed from the day's work so as to pursue, ideally, greater things.
Do you think that modernity is so utilitarian that this idea of leisure is such a foreign... That's why the idea of leisure is such a foreign concept in today's world?
Absolutely. So I just got off a retreat with Father Gregory Pine for the Godsplaining podcast. We took 30 guys into the mountains in North Carolina. It was phenomenal. The Truffin family, if any of you know them, were our hosts. They were fantastic. So we used one of their summer camps as kind of our base, and then we went out on day trips. And the trips were not anything exhaustive. Nice hikes, nothing totally burdensome. I managed to pull them off, so put a star on my chart there. But what did we do when we got to these places? This was to me the most interesting thing. Adam Truffin, our guide, led us out to these places where we were just going to, as he said, play. Where we were going to get to the base of a waterfall and then just jump in and kind of mess around on the rocks and sit there and look at the falls. And we'd be in these spots for hours at the end of the hike. And you kind of got a sense the first day anyway. At the first stop, you got a sense that the guys were restless. They were okay. Like, what's the next thing?
Yeah, what are we doing
next? Let's move on.
Yeah.
But that was it.
Yeah.
Like getting to the place to enjoy it and just be there together, to take in a beautiful view, to converse about what we saw, for some of us to catch our breath, to do a little swimming, to see if you could get up and sit on that ledge that was kind of a couple feet out and on some slippery rock. Okay, just to like explore a little bit and play around. That was it. That was the point. That was the whole reason we were on these treks. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe even like lay down and take a nap.
Relax.
Just chill out.
And it sounds like the most bourgeois thing. It just sounds like something that should be overthrown or denounced. Acknowledged as morally corrupt, but it's not.
Right, like this could lead to the collapse of society.
Yeah,
you realize that.
Exactly, that's right. But yeah, again, to the contrary, this is the kind of thing that is essential for the restoration of a culture, to be able to sit and think, to just sit in a chair and take in something outside instead of the television, to not listen to a podcast, even a good one. I realize the irony of what I'm proposing here. Don't get me wrong. To be free from email for even an hour or two.
Yeah. Well, I think that this has even just natural benefits. That nothing space. I think that's probably the same thing. Something that they call the shower effect how sometimes you have your best ideas when you're just in the shower you're not thinking about anything, and all of a sudden you just like, I just had a great idea, and so like cultivating that nothing box, even just forget the like spiritual side of it, just on a natural side, I think that there's something about men, especially as you mentioned, that it's just part of our nature, and it needs to be cultivated just like all the parts of us, right? So we're going to keep talking about this on the other side of the break. Juan would like to revisit. He wants to revisit.
Let's keep rolling though, so we don't get in trouble.
Dude,
especially because we're not gonna have much.
I mean, we're already going to be in trouble.
You gonna be.
Yeah, we're going to be in trouble, but let's minimize the trouble.
Minimize.
You remember like when you were a kid and you realize we're gonna be in trouble. It's like, well, might as well enjoy it then.
That's right. We've come this far.
Right, exactly.
This is embarrassing, but when I was in college and I realized I was down to almost no dollars in my bank account.
Excellent.
This is not embarrassing. This is actually an efficient idea.
I knew, when you withdraw money that you don't have, you get a bank fee.
An overdraft fee.
Overdraft fee.
Yeah.
Well, I knew, this is going to happen. So I would overdraft more than what I needed.
Just go ahead and
to take
pull
only
out
one draft fee.
Pull out the maximum. Like go to the ATM and just pull out $400.
And max out. But obviously I'd pay it back. I know, let's not get into usury. Let's not get into all these, speculation and all that.
I mean, it's just prudent, right? I mean, hey guys, I'm going to need more than the one thing I'm buying right now before I get paid. And I'm going to just take a loan.
Adam, I have one simple life-changing phrase for you.
Yeah.
There's always money in the banana stand.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. All right,
I work at a banana stand.
Welcome back to the Catholic Command Show. Here with Father Patrick Briscoe, Dominican House of Studies, talking about leisure. It's interesting. Everybody talks about, obviously, Peeper. We call him the Peepster here on the show. But here, he's right after World War II. He's about to write his book on leisure, the basis of culture. World War II in Germany. He's a German philosopher. The city is in ruins. They're trying to figure out how to rebuild this culture that has just been annihilated, basically leveled to the ground in many aspects. And they're all together trying to figure out, okay, what's the most important thing? How do we get the infrastructure back up in place? How do we get community built back up? And he makes the case for the most important thing we need to do right now is leisure, which almost sounds like asinine, right?
We need to get a brewery up in this piece, I'll tell you that.
I mean, but that almost sounds crazy, right? And he got a lot of pushback for even saying that. He said, no. If we're going to build a culture, the thing that we need right now is leisure. If we're going to start over, we need leisure. And then that obviously propelled him to writing Leisure, the Basis of Culture, which is actually very similar to, there's some parallels here with even today. Like we're getting out of obviously COVID and all this other stuff. Like we're rebuilding a lot of things. Yeah. And leisure.
That's a good analogy, a good correlation.
Yeah, I mean, not that I'm not saying they're the same, but yeah.
But
similarities. Anyway, analogies limp.
Yeah. Right. It breaks down at some point, but I'm just saying there's I think even today, the need for leisure is of utmost importance.
Yeah, I think that's right. And we see this with, I think, especially men who become dissatisfied in their marriages, or with young priests that aren't sure how to spend their time, and all kinds of evil things just creep quietly in there when you're not pursuing the highest things. And leisure is what allows us to have the space to pursue the highest things. Okay, so what do I think that guys should hook onto? Where do I think we should land on this? Well, for one, I think we should all know classical music. We should know it well. We should have opinions about whether or not we like Beethoven or Mahler or anyone else. Nice. And that takes a real commitment to to listen carefully, to devote time to that.
I don't
to
like
develop
Brahms.
this kind of craft.
I don't like him.
See, okay,
I don't-
you've
Great-
already got some
great milkshakes,
established
though.
Yeah,
opinions.
great milkshakes. not a fan of his music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And part of that is because part of that is because of the nature of what classical music is that classical music, as opposed to modern music, expands the moment. Some people are masters. Wagner's a master of this, despite some of his music being complicated for other moral reasons. But Wagner can take something, right, and just open a chord, and you feel like time is just being suspended as you listen to it. But it takes a real commitment to decide, okay, no, I'm gonna listen to some Wagner, and I'm gonna figure out whether or not I like this, or I don't know anything about classical music, because all I've listened to is country music, because I like songs about broken trucks and dead dogs and women who've left me, and that's fine. You know, I'm not raining
can
on that
still like
parade.
those
You know,
things,
yes,
you know what I'm
those
saying?
things are excellent to like. I'm simply suggesting that it's good for our culture to also like classical music.
Yeah.
And to have a return to something before. Okay, so and part of the reason is that it expands time. It opens us up. But the quality of the music, the timbre of it, it has a way of relaxing us. It's more raw. It's simpler, which is why a lot of people don't like it. It doesn't have the kind of intensity that modern music has, and so it requires a kind of familiarity to get comfortable with the tone and timbre of it.
So here's a practical way. If you're listening right now and you're like, I don't know anything about classical music, I'm the same way. I really don't know a lot about classical music, but here's what we decided to do as a family about a year and a half, about 3 years ago, because COVID threw us off time.
Yeah,
About
dude.
3 years ago,
I know.
pre-COVID, we decided that we would start buying vinyls. And I have a record player downstairs by the kitchen table, and as Haley is making dinner, I put on a classical vinyl to listen to, and with the kids around, that way they can be brought up and kind of understand it a little bit better, especially better than I can. But that way I can at least say, oh, okay, I do know what Beethoven sounds like. I do know what Bach sounds like. I do know what Brahms sounds like. In that way I can at least differentiate these people and understand like what I like and what I don't like. So this is a practical way of just being able to like start.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know very much about it, but at least I can, you can start appreciating it and enjoy it.
Yeah. If you don't like Mozart, you might be reprobate. You might be.
Might.
So one thing that I did with this is also like 3 or 4 years ago, and I didn't stick with it for very long. I did it for a couple of months, where I would pick a composer of the week when I went to work. And so like I wasn't sitting down and listening because I'm working, but I would just have it on in the background, and like on my Amazon Music, just play all of whoever, what it was for that week. And that way I'd kind of get a feel of, because over that week, you're going to hear the same songs over and over and over and over and over again, and you kind of get to know them a little bit, just so I could kind of decide who it is.
Nice.
Who is it that I even
Yeah.
want to spend time with? So I'd give them a week just in the background, so then I could say, oh, I like these people, don't like these people. Now I know who am I going to like sit down and actually listen to. And what else I found is that classical music did something very similar to listening to chant. Like Gregorian chant does not distract me. I find that when I play Gregorian chant at work, I like have better focus, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just me.
Is it the tones?
I don't know. But when I have chant or classical music on, it doesn't distract me the way country music or other music does. Part of it is because there's no words. Nobody's singing anything. But I actually find that it helps me do my work better. Interesting.
I think so. In addition to that, and I kind of jumped on. I just accepted your premise, Adam. And I think that I would underscore too.
That's a bold move.
Because Pieper's right. I agree with that, and I think we're in this kind of moment in our culture where so many things are just being pulled apart. Our political discourse is gone. That's a dumpster fire.
Yeah,
to use the
no doubt.
technical term.
Yeah.
But no.
it's like a dumpster fire at a like porta potty manufacturing place. You know,
Exactly.
something.
So I'm going at this from the perspective of looking at like what is to be done. Well, coming to know music well, coming to know literature well, reading the great novels, right, are very important. I was just talking to a friend last night, debating about a couple things about Russian historical novels, and we were kind of going back and forth on what's been written well that's been set in Russia recently. And we came up with a few titles. I defended the Gentleman in Moscow, A Gentleman in Moscow. I'm going to get the title correct. That's the title of the book by Amortals. She hated that book, but I actually thought it was pretty good because it's all about civility. So the Gentleman in Moscow is the last of Russian society who's imprisoned by the Soviets in a hotel in Moscow. And it's all about his experiences there, and so he's extraordinary, and there's a lot of meat there that would be great reflection on this show. Anyway, so the Russian novel, and why is literature like that so good? Well, because it draws you out of the present moment and forces you to think about values of a different place, of a different time, what a different life could look like, and that's just restful to be drawn out of the rhythm, the pace of life today.
So, Father, for a lot of people, they're going to hear that and say, you know what, like, because it really, like, the idea of, like, oh, yes, I want to be a cultured man. Like, I do want to know the classics.
Pipe.
Right, exactly.
Jacket,
like what guy, like, I want to own several wingback chairs, and I want to be able to, like, oh, you want to ask me about, like, yes, I'd love to discuss the Brothers Karamazov with you and, tell you my thoughts. But for a lot of people, they're going to try to, like, do some of these things, and it's going to be not restful for them. Like, I think a lot of people, our appetites for leisure have been, kind of just disordered because of just noise, distraction, television, like the flashing lights constantly, and then you slow down and you get this like, oh, read a book? Like I made it to 2 pages and I was going to freak out. Like, I can't take this anymore.
I had to check what time it was.
Right, exactly. Like, have I been 32 minutes? So what can someone do? What do you like? Do you have any suggestions? Like, if you are that person, you come home and you turn the television on, just to like have it on. How do you train yourself to actually get to where you can slow down, and do some of these other things?
That's right. One, don't turn the television on.
Okay.
It is
that simple.
And then you won't do that.
When Adam was getting a dog recently, I told him, like, he was kind of like, I'm not sure if I want to get a dog. It's like, not getting a dog is easy. You just don't get a dog.
Don't get a dog.
You just don't get
right.
one. Okay? So it's like not turning on the television.
Same
It's
thing.
like, you just don't turn it on.
Don't watch Netflix.
It's just a brilliant idea.
It's the worst thing you can do.
Uh-huh.
Really. Not because of the quality of the show, but because you're constantly... all of the impressions of all these things are constantly being forced upon you, that just distract the mind and make it impossible for you to focus well. And actually, no, I do want to say the content is important too to reflect on. Monsignor Shea, in his book From Christendom to Apostolic Mission, points this out, and he says we're just constantly imbibing things that we don't agree with fundamentally in a casual way, and we have to resist that.
True that. I love Monsignor Shea. He's
so
awesome.
He's so awesome. Okay, so when we get back, I want to ask you about the relationship between festivity and leisure. So we're here with Father Patrick Briscoe. We'll be right back.
We'll be festive.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles, here with Adam Minahan, Father Patrick Briscoe. We're talking about leisure and why it's important, why you should look for it. Typically, if you describe someone as a man of leisure, like, I'm not really sure that that's always a compliment, Like,
it's not if my mother says it.
He's a man of leisure. It's like, oh, you mean he's unemployed. But really, we should strive to be men of leisure.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, especially, I feel like leisure is unavoidable for in the religious life. You know, like your life is structured in a way, your prayer life, it's like you're gonna get it. You're gonna get leisure. But for like someone who's raising a family, especially like, okay, for like Adam and I, we're in a very chaotic season of life. Okay, we both have number 5.
Not that you're not, but
Right,
just different chaos.
Yes, no doubt. You have your own brand of chaos, right? I mean, everybody does. But we both have number 5 on the way, and it's just
Let's go.
right. I mean, it's like right. This is where it is. This is the good, this is the good stuff in life right here. But it's just like things are just crazy. We need to make sure we maintain it, because we need we set examples for our kids. They need to see these things.
One of the guys who came on retreat with us recently said he almost turned around and went back home because his wife called him after he'd been gone just a few hours. His wife called him crying, and she said the twins just took off their diapers and were rubbing poop over the walls of the house.
I have those kind of stories.
So I'm imagining,
I feel for 'em.
chaotic season of life. I'm imagining this kind of content.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh.
Yep.
We're not going to tell it, but Adam has a story like that.
Yes.
When he told me what happened, I like locked up. I didn't. It's like, what did you do? Like I
Cut
think
the sheetrock out,
Yeah,
and we
it's like,
put new sheetrock in. Is what we
I went
did.
and got the kerosene, and I burned it
We
down.
sold the house
Right.
and moved.
We just left. We haven't been back. I don't know what happened to the house.
So it's something we're recording this actually on the feast of the Assumption, and I was reading in a awesome handbook of Catholic culture. It's an old book. I forget Father. Starts with a W. I can't remember his last name. Anyway, in this book, he lays out all of these different things that happen in Catholic culture for different liturgical seasons. One thing they said was in Hungary, they would have a 7-day fast leading up to the Assumption with a 3-day feast.
Okay.
And so my question is for you, Father, is the reason why we're not good at leisure because we're not good at fasting?
Oh, that's interesting. I think they're definitely connected. I will say this. I didn't know how festivity worked until I became a Dominican. That my experience of life in the order, especially the liturgical life, was so pronounced, so incredible, so beautiful, that I realized all that I had tasted before was just a shadow of the reality of how things are really done.
You're Plato in the cave.
Exactly. Now, I don't mean to be disedifying here to anyone, but the best holiday at the Dominican House of Studies is Thanksgiving. No church. That's a little, that's a little bit tough. But the point is the holidays at the Dominican House of Studies are amazing. They're
Right.
just phenomenal.
Yeah.
They're absolutely incredible. All of them. Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, those are the big ones. The brothers cook and prepare just these incredible meals that are very well planned. Everything's carefully crafted. The liturgies those days are extraordinary. So you just get fantastic experiences of prayer, really wonderful preaching, beautiful choral music. Our director right now, Father Michael O'Connor, is amazing. He's the compiler of the St. Michael hymnal. So he's our choir master at the House of Studies, a really talented man, really incredible, accomplished organist. So the feast days are just, level 12 on a 10
I do love
point
that.
scale. They're incredible. And part of the reason why they're so beautiful is that life at the Dominican House of Studies is tough. It's a grind. And, it's nowhere near what our forebears would do because we don't break sleep like Dominicans of old used to.
I can't even imagine
for the night
doing
office.
that. Yeah.
I mean, it would just be impossible to keep up with everything.
No wonder like average life expectancy was 35 or something.
St. Dominic died of exhaustion.
Right,
Like
exactly.
the man actually worked himself to death.
Right.
Which is extraordinary. But
To be admired, not imitated.
yeah, exactly. That's right. But the rigor of life in the house and the programming, the pace at which life moves, is part of what makes the feast days so enjoyable.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of extra time to sleep in. The liturgies are longer, but they move at a slower pace. dinner at the House of Studies is like an assembly line. You just sort of walk by and someone shoves something in, and then you're on to the next thing.
Like you're in prison or something.
So it's functional, as opposed to the meals on the feast days, which are intended to be enjoyed. You're intended to linger at table. Oftentimes afterwards, we go outside, you sit around a fire, or you move down to the rec room. Typically on Thanksgiving, there's the after Thanksgiving meal movie. Usually something like Die Hard.
Die Hard, right?
What the boys are up to. So there are all of these moments for just rest that don't exist in our daily life. So to answer your question directly, why is it that we're bad at leisure? It's because I do agree with the point that we're also bad at discipline. And so there's very little distinction between when we're actually relaxing and recovering and recouping and doing something serious to preserve the nature of Western culture, like bothering to learn extraordinary classical music. There's very little difference between that and all of the rest of our life. Everything is just kind of a Starbucks drive-through line.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I look at my own life, I realize that I didn't know how to feast because I basically do that every day.
Right. This is America.
I mean,
it's the most prosperous country in the world.
It's like
ever
for breakfast
in the history of humanity.
Like,
you
could
can have
I-
whatever you want.
Could I fit
Always.
another bite in? It's like, this is just breakfast on Tuesday. It's like, well, maybe I'll try half another bite. I think I have some space down here still. Need my energy, right? So like, we just feast. We eat until we are full at every meal. And I don't think that's... And if we don't do that, we think we're fasting.
Right.
Like the idea of like 2 small meals that when added together don't equal 1 meal and then 1 regular meal. Like, that is not fasting. You're like not even hungry when you do that, it's just totally wrong. And when, like, in my own self-reflection, the stuff that's wrong with me is always my appetites. My appetites for this or that or whatever, that's always where I get into trouble. So like, I could just go into the confessional every time and be like, my appetites. All of them, all of them, basically all the time, so like, that gets me into trouble. I don't ever fast. Like, the best Easter I've ever had is after doing Exodus 90. Just because you actually have to
that
put up
first
with
warm
stuff.
shower.
Oh,
You're like, I remember this.
yeah, like the best 2 hours of my life.
You've been in there for like an hour and a half.
Right.
I know, this water is so awesome.
Right. When we run out, I just run over to the neighbors.
Yeah.
I need to take a shower. I'll explain later. But I do think that we just need to examine, our appetites in general. Because feasting, if you feast every day, then how do you even do it? Because I wonder, when I hear things like a 3-day feast, that sounds like, I couldn't do that. It's like Thanksgiving, 3 days in a row. I mean, that's not good.
We have a friar in the province that's a bishop in the Solomon Islands, and recently his diocese celebrated a big anniversary. This was a year or 2 ago, but recently in the grand scheme of things anyway. So they celebrated a big anniversary. So people came from all over, traveled by boat for days to arrive at the sea, to arrive where the bishop was, where the feast would be. And then they had a 5-day-long celebration featuring presentations of newly composed music, of skits, of dances, and then all of the food that had been prepared that they brought for this, again, gigantic celebration. To think of the work that would have gone into that, everything that you would have sacrificed beforehand to make that possible, is really remarkable.
That would have been awesome.
Like, we don't like setting up chairs in the church hall.
No,
And
certainly
these
not.
these people paddle canoes for days.
Certainly, we don't put the chairs away. I mean, it's like,
there's a maintenance guy for that.
right. We have a staff.
What's Fred doing?
So I do think, though. So again, I think it goes back to, if we are feasting all the time, you don't have the enjoyment of, if you've been drinking beer every day, that beer does not taste good, or as good. If you have been fasting for 90 days on Exodus 90 and you crack open that first beer, that is a joy, that is a leisurely beer. That is a delicious beer.
Yeah.
So
Even if it's a Coors Banquet.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what kind it is. It doesn't matter. It's like it's not water, so it's awesome. But so I do think that our appetites, like we indulge in our appetites so much that we dull our senses to the point of we can't enjoy things for their goodness.
Undoubtedly, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like this is a problem that didn't have to be faced in the past. Like 50 years ago,
we have the burden of abundance here.
Approximately, like you couldn't find Cheetos no matter where you went. You know what I mean? Like you had to go to a special store to get Cheetos, and it's like, you just bought what you could carry.
Now Jeff Bezos will deliver them to you
right?
by drone.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So if you're listening on Catholic Radio right now, go check us out on the podcast, thecatholicmanshow.com. We're going to continue this conversation with Father Briscoe for just a few more minutes. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
And cheers to Jesus.
We do have our own 3-day feast. It's called the Camp Out.
The Catholic Man Show Camp Out.
Yeah, we do, don't we?
We do, yeah. By the way, we need to start talking about that because I've been getting a lot of emails. So
when is the camp out?
October 6th through the 9th this year.
I'm booked that weekend. Sorry.
Oh man,
that's a bummer.
Have you ever heard of Clear Creek Abbey?
I have.
So
I know the abbot.
Oh, you know Father Philip?
Who doesn't?
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
He's a great man.
Yeah,
he is. He is awesome.
Yeah,
what kind of man do you think I am? that I wouldn't know the abbot of Clear Creek?
Obviously, I know these guys. These are my
Please.
circle. These are my people.
I'm a real religious. Yeah. How dare you?
How dare you?
Number one, how dare you?
Who do you think you are?
Yeah. So every year we have a Catholic Man Show camp out that we have at Clear Creek Abbey. And last year we had, I think, 14 states represented. The furthest one was Alaska. We have about 60 guys that show up.
Alaska to Florida.
Yeah, I think last year. So, and it's basically 4 days of camping and praying with the monks and eating with the monks, and we do. And we always have the horseshoes and cornhole, but then we also have a forge.
Hand grenades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a forge.
We have a forge. A guy comes out and shows us how to forge metal, and the 2-man saw, wood saw. Have you ever done that before?
Crosscut saw.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out crosscut saw.
Axe throwing.
Axe throwing. Yeah, so we have all these things. Anyway, October 6th to the 9th is when it is, and we're going to open it up for registration. Last year, 3 hours, sold out.
Wow.
Only
So-
patrons only were the
basically,
just
yeah.
our patrons filled it up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
It's an awesome event.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a lot of questions. I know we're limited on time. I'd like to do a 3-hour session with you on this topic because I have a lot. I love this topic as well. I'll shout out also to Father Aquinas because he wrote a paper. I think in Nova Verita. I can't remember where it was, but he did a paper on prudence in the relationship of prudence and leisure.
Nice.
It was really, really good.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean,
it was really good. So shout out to him, who's been on our show as well. And,
yeah. Have you met him? You know him?
Do you know Father Aquinas Gilbo?
I've heard of the prior of my community.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you at the very beginning we talked about how leisure orients us towards contemplation, orients us to rest when we're resting in Him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you're this is a new concept. I think a lot of times, like Dave said it earlier, you can fall into the trap of resting so that you can work again.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe you can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we have to come to terms with is that this is its own delight. Leisure is its own reward. There was a cigar show that I would listen to some years ago, hosted by Cigar Dave. And one of the things that
my new aspiration,
and one of the things
to become Cigar Dave.
Well, you see just how corrupt I am. I'm revealing a lot to you on the Catholic Man Show. But one of the things that he would always say was he would ask, "How do you know that you're done enjoying a cigar?"
When you stop enjoying it?
When you stop enjoying it. That was his point. Smoke as much of it as you want, because whatever it is that you're getting out of it is what you're getting out of it. Like you just smoke a cigar for the sake of smoking it, right? And I think that there are many things.
You don't inhale your cigars?
That's right.
God, you have to be a man to
I
do
just thought of like 7 things that I'm not willing to say while being recorded. But
well, I don't want to throw up all day, so no, I don't.
Well, that's good. Yeah, we'll go with that one. So I think there's an importance here, you know, that we can look at with the phrase "virtue is its own reward." That leisure is its own reward. We can pursue leisure as an end in itself, and recognize that we've not distorted something. And again, the reason I think that this is important to speak to is because it's very tempting when guys have an experience of a conversion, or they want to live the religious life, they want to live their faith intently, they want to live a life that's marked by their religious fervor. They get so intense that they become brittle, and we have to resist that. And so we have to insist that leisure is not soft. You know, this is not, again, something for limp-wristed yahoos. That this is important. That this matters. That this does something integral to our soul because of the kind of thing that a human being is.
Yeah, I mean that's like try to build a building out of pottery. It's very hard, but the reason steel is so strong is because it flexes. You know, it bends.
Right.
What's the highest form of leisure?
Ooh, that's a great question. The highest form of leisure. What would I say? Yeah, I would say just that kind of restful thinking where you're not in contemplation. You know, it's not like a dedicated prayer state, so it's not contemplation. But you know, I could picture it, right? I could describe it. You're on a porch in a rocking chair. It's not Tulsa in August, so it's not 103 degrees out at 9:30 at night. It's like you know, the weather is temperate.
Maybe April. April 12th through the 16th. It's beautiful.
Very nice.
Beautiful here in Tulsa.
Gorgeous. Yeah, okay. I'll plan my next trip out for those 3 days. Right.
Gorgeous.
So you hit that moment where where you've got that scene. I think that's it. Where you're drawn, because ultimately what you're looking for in leisure is to be drawn outside of yourself in the movement towards the other. That's what leisure does, is that it allows the walls that we build around our hearts, around our lives, the false structures we construe, to collapse. Leisure allows those to be broken for a moment, so that we can see our life from a different perspective.
Yeah, I think that there are some like ingredients for good leisure. You don't have to have all of them, but magnificence is, and I don't mean like the virtue of magnificence where you're giving away money, but like a sunset or a landscape or an environment, another person. You know, like these things are all good ingredients for good leisure. Like some of the best leisure moments I've had have been on my back porch, smoking a cigar or a pipe, a good glass of whiskey, watching just a gorgeous sunset, right? And there's just something about putting yourself, leisure I think is also receptive, right? That you're kind of surrendering to it a little bit, that you're like letting it happen to you. Not that I'm like doing it, because if you think that I'm gonna go and like leisure hard, I'm gonna leisure hard today.
We're gonna leisure so hard,
right? Like
the most leisure,
right? Exactly. Like that just becomes you're just like working now, and it's like you're missing it. Okay, you gotta receive the leisure. So
which is difficult for men, right? Just receiving in general is not a natural thing,
right?
Yeah,
and this is the point. I mean, I want to circle back to something that you brought up. You say like, in my life, I have 4 kids, 1 on the way. My life has a certain shape to it. It's mostly chaos. That's why you have to dig into this point and say, no, leisure is actually essential, and I have to make room for this. So, Jennifer, I love you, but I'm going to take some time. And I'm going to make time in my life so that you can do so as well. And I think
That's the
key.
kicker. That's the kicker right
Yeah.
there.
So the relationship of holy friendship with holy leisure.
Yeah,
What's
good.
your-
I think very essential. Absolutely. You know, and David was getting to that a little bit, right, where he suggested another person, right? Because people can orient us. The most relaxed I am is when I'm with my classmates from the novitiate.
Uh-huh.
You know, the best friends I have ever
You've been
had.
through stuff with them.
Yeah, exactly. You know, our novice master is a great man and an expert in psychological warfare. You know,
Good friend. Good friend to have.
just you know, he's just really incredible that way. Yeah, I think part of it's because he's from Boston, and there's certain things about that city and being Irish that make you a certain way. So yeah, he had all of them. Yeah. So but when you're with people that you've known, that you have so much history with, it's so easy to be at rest with them. So good friendships are certainly one of the causal agents. They're certainly part of what makes it possible to be at peace, right? Because if you're just meeting someone, you're trying to feel them out, and you're like, okay, do I talk about the president with this guy?
Right.
No,
Not that.
you know, like
Maybe
okay,
abortion. Maybe that's what it is.
that's good. That'll be good. Yeah, good.
Weed out this friendship real quick, like.
So instead of having to test the waters, you know, with true friends, you can just sit. I went over the summer. One of my classmates lost his father. It was a very, very sad death. So a couple of the guys and I got in the car and we're driving to the funeral mass, and we were driving a while. You know, it was one of those like 8-hour car rides, and we hit, you know, hour 6, and there's nothing else to say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're caught up. So we're just in the car, you know, bopping along together. No music on.
Mm-hmm.
It was fine.
We got
was
to
great,
that
actually.
the square of nothingness.
Yeah. And you just hit it all at the same time. It's like, all right, this is okay. We're still in Pennsylvania on the toll road. But but this is, you know, this is a good place to be. And real friendships, people experience this in romantic relationships too. Real friendships hit a point where nothing has to be said because you can enjoy whatever it is that you're doing, even if it's the Pennsylvania Turnpike, together.
Mm-hmm.
Which this is adoration, right? This is just like being able to waste time with the other, right? So
Yeah.
you go into adoration, you're just sitting there and being with our Lord. You're just spending time with him. And just you know, in your marriage, when you get to a certain point where you can go have dinner with one another and you actually don't really have to say much, but you're just enjoying being together in their presence.
Exactly. And that's why leisure is so important, and cultivating as a habit, because you know, as you're saying, it just leads right into, you know, the important disposition we need, the essential disposition we need for prayer.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yeah, I have to confess, like when I go to adoration, I still have this temptation,
so
which I succumb to a lot, of like, oh, I'm gonna like
do
this.
the
I'm
rosary
like
in,
filling
and then
up
I'm gonna do
my hour of
liturgy
adoration,
hours,
right?
and,
Exactly,
you know,
and then I'm gonna do this, and then I could do this, and then this, and then the hour is
I'll give
over.
it 60 minutes.
Right, exactly, like that. I can fill up that.
And then I
tick,
get
tick,
15 minutes.
right,
of-
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, instead of like letting myself, just be there, or
be
like
with him. Just
or sometimes I'll find myself thinking, oh, you know, like I'm gonna pray the rosary, but you know, I'm not gonna like pray it too slow because then I won't have time
to do other things.
Won't have time to read my book,
Right.
You know, but I have had some moments where it's like, no, I'm just gonna sit here. I'm gonna pray this. This is gonna be the slowest rosary I've ever prayed. I'm just gonna like. What else am I gonna do? Like, I don't have to read the book. The
right.
book I'm reading sucks anyway. You know, like,
How dare you? Father Gregory Pine wrote that book. It's a great
that
book.
Prudence book is awesome. Okay, so let me ask you this because we got to wrap up. But what would Sunday look like? What would you advise Sunday look like for a Catholic man with a family? This is the day of leisure, right? This is the day of rest. God instituted the seventh day to be the day of rest.
and do you know how to get a 5-year-old girl to put on a dress in less than 20 minutes?
Does she like bourbon?
You know what? We don't know yet.
I haven't tried that, actually.
I'm full of great ideas.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell my wife. I'm like, Pamela, look, a priest told me about this idea.
The Dominican told us.
And he's a Dominican.
Yeah.
So.
No, so I think what is Sunday? What is Sunday for? I think Sunday ultimately is for that kind of restful play. For you go to mass and then you hang out at the playground that's at your church because there's a parish school there. You let your kids play there. You stop by, if you're in New England, you stop by Dunkin' Donuts on the way home, and everybody gets an iced coffee. You make sure the kids' iced coffees are decaf because you don't hate yourself. Yeah. You go home. What is there to be done? Nothing. You go outside.
Play baseball.
Sure, if you like America. If you don't, then maybe not.
Then soccer.
Foot.
What are you, British?
Yes.
Break. Sorry, Juan.
Sorry, Juan.
Poor Juan.
I forgive you.
People didn't know that you were British.
The mustache.
Very
Excellent.
tan.
That's
He's a
right.
very
The
tan
mustache.
British man over here.
No, but I think a day that really is built around the family and doing something together as a family is excellent. Playing a game, hanging out, just making the rule, okay, everybody's going to be in the backyard for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just going to be in the
Whether
backyard.
you like it or not.
That's right. And you can't go inside.
It's 110 degrees outside, Dad.
That's right.
Rules are rules.
Because it's Tulsa.
Also, no water.
Yeah, rules are rules. Oh no, I'm not going outside.
Yeah, so I agree. So I think the important thing is that Sundays look different.
Yeah.
Right? So Sundays should be a different vibe, a different, way of orchestrating your family, right? So like you have Holy Mass in the morning, hopefully, or whenever you go. And then after that you have maybe you have a long brunch or a long long lunch.
I don't know.
Or and then but it should not involve, work. It should not involve like, okay, this is another day for me to get ahead or
We're
catch
not
up.
painting a bathroom.
We're not we're not doing
and we're certainly not
renovations.
actually like going like to work. I mean, if you can avoid it. Some people have to work on Sundays, but if you can avoid it, you shouldn't be doing your job on Sunday.
So that's the idea, right? Is like this is not another day to get caught up on the to-do list, but this is the day to spend time with family, to enjoy the highest leisures of contemplation in the Holy Mass, and in conversations with your family.
I will say, Adam, the exception to this is if you happen to be painting the siding of your house and your kids love painting siding.
Family activity.
We're going to all paint the siding! Guys, we're going to have so much fun today.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to do? You can take this paint. I want you to just cover this wall. Literally. But, like in our house, we make sure on Sundays to talk about, like, okay, why we talk about Sunday is different. And, we say things like, oh, we're going to do this because Sunday is the best day.
Right.
Like Sunday is the best day. Like, yes, we're definitely having dessert on Sunday. Why? Because it's Sunday.
We're going to the good park today.
Right.
The one with
Big
the
slide.
big slide.
Big slide.
Right, the
Yep.
big slide,
Yep.
yes.
Yep.
Like, you want candy between lunch and dinner? It's Sunday.
We're going to do it.
Bring Dad 2
In
pieces.
fact, dinner is just candy. There's only candy.
You know why? Because
And
Jesus
steak.
loves you. That is why.
For Easter, the Easter week, we do dessert after breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
You do?
Yeah.
Wow, that is
Viva.
commitment.
All week.
I love it.
I'm coming. I'm coming over.
So sometimes I'm like, the kids are like already had their breakfast. I was like, here's a cake, and they're like, I'm kind of full. You eat your cake.
What
It's Easter, okay?
rookie mistake.
You think Jesus rose from the dead so you could ignore your cake? There are starving people in India.
Father, we have run out of time. I don't want to get into more trouble than what we are already going to be.
So much trouble, dude.
How can people find out more about the Dominicans or what you are doing? Any work that you are doing? You're also the editor of a very large Catholic publication.
Check us out over at Aleteia. That's ALETEIA.org. That's the Greek word for truth, David. Thank you for asking. Aleteia.org.
I do have the best questions.
So we over there at Aleteia, we work to publish the truth. We're faithful to the tradition. We bring news from the Vatican. We have a Vatican press desk, which is a very precious thing, a privileged thing. So we have the latest Catholic news and inspiring stories to illuminate your faith life over there. So that's my day job. I'm the editor there. Check out Godsplaining, the Dominican Friars podcast, which gets a little bit better every time you listen to it. We almost know what we're doing. So you can find us at godsplaining.org. Follow us on the YouTubes. That's very good, apparently. Dudes like YouTube. I like YouTube.
I also like YouTube.
It's excellent. It's the best. And then otherwise, follow me on Twitter, which I like
great follow.
a lot.
Already do it.
Patrick Mary OP.
Yeah. Awesome. Father, thank you so much for joining us, for carving out some time to hang out with us in your quick trip to Tulsa, but we're grateful to have you and great to host
Thank you.
here in Tulsa.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.